Hi, hope you're all doing well and welcome back to my channel because we've got something interesting to talk about today. As Fashion Month is finally behind and we can all sit down and actually talk about fashion shows and concentrate on them without a constant stream of new information and new runway pictures coming our way, I decided to talk about the brand that probably surprised me the most this season, and that's Givenchy, and particularly Matthew Williams at Givenchy. And without further ado, let's get straight to the topic because I am really excited to talk about it. When a few seasons ago, Matthew Williams got appointed as a creative director at Givenchy, a lot of people were really excited for this opportunity and had a lot of hope for him to repeat, classic success story of Virgil Abloh and bring more creativity and kind of fresh aesthetic view and modernity into slightly outdated designs of Givenchy that were done by Claire Keller before Matthew. Yes, that was the problem with Claire, that although her designs and tailoring was impeccable, unfortunately it was very repetitive and boring. Although Matthew and his brand Alix is very difficult to describe as the most creative and innovative brand, but it has a distinct aesthetic, which I have to say I personally really love. But an equal lot to people who are looking forward to Matthew Williams joining Givenchy were actually really worried about bringing another high-based streetwear designer into high fashion, and Givenchy is traditionally haute couture house, and thus there was a big question whether Matthew is qualified enough to be at the brand, and very unfortunately the latter ones were right. The first collection designed by Matthew at Givenchy, it was spring 2021, unfortunately did not receive much positive acclaim from the audience, and in general it resulted only in a bunch of memes about three-toed boots that reminded Scooby-Doo paws, and in general, the collection was not good. It was disorganized, it had no narrative, it made no sense, it had little referencing of the house code, and although there were some really try-hard references to Alexander McQueen's Givenchy with the horned shoes and with the horns on the caps, it was not enough, and the identity, the DNA of the brand was lost somewhere unknown. And perhaps the only important thing that we received from that collection was a padlock, a reinvented padlock that became already signature for the brand. And that's something that Matthew is really good at. He's phenomenal working with accessories, he's really good with the hardware, metalware, jewelry, but on the other hand it's also his personality and his personal specifics of work that affected the previous collection, because as he said in his own words, he much rather prefers working with the exact product and he does not think in themes. And whereas such strategy really works well with streetwear and his very own brand Alix, unfortunately, it does not work with the luxury haute couture houses where you have to build a dream for people to buy your clothing. Thus, you need a complex and cohesive narrative around your clothes. And following pre-fall, fall and resort collections were even more boring and less remarkable. And Matthew's struggle was really obvious as he jumped from inexplicable references to the previous creative directors, to the overcomplicated designs and mismatched patterns, to the street stylish silhouettes, to the outdated tailoring, losing both the brand's identity and his own in a search for the right way to approach. And many people did give up on him, including me, even though I'm a big fan of his creative talent and the aesthetic, the utilitarian aesthetic that he created for his brand Alex, I just did not think that he was a right fit for Givenchy. And I can't stress enough how happy I am to be proven wrong. So let's take a look at the Spring Collection 2022 and see what's going on there. Matthew's third ready-to-wear show for Givenchy took place in Paris at La Défense Arena, a vast space providing a stadium experience for the audience. And although the idea of such grandeur belongs to Young Thug, an author of the soundtrack for the show, it is no surprise considering Williams' impressive experience of working as a stylist for the top-notch celebrities such as Lady Gaga and Kanye on tours. And after having gotten used to the social distancing during the pandemic, the scale of event and the amount of audience seems even more striking. A static narrative of the collection flowed smoothly from the dark silhouettes emerging from behind the black curtain to the lighter looks of beige and pale brown until it erupted with vibrant colors and artwork in collaboration with an artist, Josh Smith, concluding itself with monochromatic black and white looks to remind of Matthew's personal style and introduce the designer on the runway, of course wearing a plain white t-shirt and black trousers. Although Matthew admitted in one of the interviews that he is a master of product but doesn't like walking in themes, but for this collection he overcame himself and produced a cohesive narrative in the story. The overall mood of collection is very complex as it offers this beautiful mix of luxury and utility, and I think he finally found a very sweet spot of mixing the softness and elegance of Givenchy with his own very harsh and very sharp aesthetic. And again, that's another thing that is really important because Givenchy traditionally is a very classic brand. At some point it was considered as the definition of classic. So having Matthew actually tap into the roots and reinvent it once again is a really great achievement and very well done. And I also like the idea of working with Josh Smith. Josh Smith is an artist who often uses his own initials, the letters of his name, to create additional semiotics into art, which blends perfectly with the idea of a luxury fashion house, because let's admit it, we all first pay for the name and then the quality comes out of it. And one of the great examples from this collaboration is Look 49, that uses the materials in the way that they create an effect of a brush stroke. And also, is there someone cosplaying as Laurie from Little Women on the background? Anyways, back to the collection. Despite the looks being designed in traditionally masculine tailoring textures like Napa leather, neoprene and mohair wools, particularly interesting were neoprene corset tops that gave way to delicate pleated peplum ruffles, and evening gowns that were detailed with sheer veiled bottoms. But of course Matthew couldn't leave us without the traditional streetwear elements such as fishing vests and leather trenches and caps. And I have to admit that the tailoring and leather work in this collection was also beautiful, very reminiscent of Alex, but I do not complain. And also I thought that using the staple Givenchy thigh-high boots with little lace hem was a really interesting move. And also footwear and accessories in this collection were a lot more notable than in previous one. For example, he introduced fully knitted sneakers and contemporary leather clogs and thigh skimming platform boots, which I predict are gonna be a complete hit. I think people will really like them. They're already super popular on social media, but of course we couldn't do without the controversies. And again, social media was dragging out the issue with the noose looking necklace. I did not see any negative connotation in it, although I understand what people allude to, but I genuinely don't think it was that. It's just a nod. And apart from the obvious personal references of John Smith, such as pumpkin bag, Smith Totem and a bottle of bleach. Matthew was more than ever inspired by Riccardo Tisci's time at Givenchy. For instance, the sweater features a technique that was frequently used by Tisci to create additional volume, and he was also famous for his obscure messy patterns, often inspired by the crystals and stones. And in the newest collection, the pattern on a sweater resembles a stone cut in the middle. And overall, I have to say it was genuinely a really good collection, and after watching it and clothing my laptop, it doesn't just disappear from my memory, and it stays in my mind as a Givenchy collection, because I think that Matthew's done a really good job, first of all, redefining and modernizing the Givenchy aesthetic while still remaining loyal to the brand's DNA, the classic cuts and classic tailoring. Meanwhile, the collaboration with Josh Smith was really organic. It was beautiful. It went along with the whole collection, and the narrative constructed was also very cohesive. It was very clear what he wanted to say and what he did, plus referencing Riccardo Tisci was a great idea, and I'm happy that Matthew is finally tapping into the brand whilst also not being shy to bring his own thoughts and his creativity, because he's really good at hardware, he's really good at accessories. And personally, for me, one of my favorite accessories in my whole wardrobe is his Brie bag for leaks. It's fantastic quality. I wear it almost every day, and I think that if he keeps Givenchy going in the same direction as he did for this collection, it will genuinely be a massive hit. I think people would really like it and finally, you know, bring back Givenchy as that cool brand. And although I am not at all excited for the peplum ruffles to come back, but also I am really fascinated now by what's going on in fashion, how after this era of dark wear and, you know, post-apocalyptic aesthetic, we slightly move towards like more historical pieces to redefining the fashion as we knew it through the ages. And we'll see how Matthew deals with that in the future. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, because a lot of you don't. Why? And of course, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. I love reading them, and see you in the next one.